Hancock, I've been so foolish. All this time, I was with an angel and had no idea. Luffy. Hancock.
Clearly that's exactly what he would say. No, we can't.
Oh, hey, Emmett, what are you doing?
Hey there, pirates. Welcome aboard the Anime No Mi channel. Today we will talk about exactly all of Luffy's romantic relationships with the characters in One Piece, and you might be surprised. I hope for your support to help our crew win, and to do so, you just need to click the thumbs up button, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel. By doing this, you will win an incredible devil fruit, so just comment which fruit you want. Guys, Luffy is one of the most iconic and beloved characters in the world of One Piece, and his journey has been full of unexpected moments, many of which involve intriguing interactions with female characters. Among these interactions, some can be interpreted as closer or even romantic, depending on the perspective. Although Luffy shows little interest in romantic relationships, which is a defining aspect of his personality, there's something fascinating about exploring how these connections were formed and how they might hold deeper meaning, even indirectly. I believe these interactions reveal facets of Luffy's character and the characters involved, and perhaps they might even hint at the story's future. Luffy's relationship with Boa Hancock is undoubtedly one of the most discussed when it comes to moments that could be seen as romantic. Boa Hancock, the pirate empress and one of the Shichibukai, was completely captivated by Luffy's genuine and selfless behavior during his time on Amazon Lily. Chapter 516 of the manga and its corresponding episode in the anime showcase the starting point of this unique relationship. Luffy not only ignored Hancock's legendary beauty, but also treated her with the same simplicity and honesty he shows everyone. This made her develop a deep love for him, something she had never experienced before. Perhaps, who knows, Hancock's love could turn into something more concrete in the future. But for now, it's interesting to observe how Luffy inspires such devotion without even realizing it. The scene where Hancock tries to express her feelings to Luffy in chapter 519 is particularly striking. I think it's possible to interpret this interaction as a moment where Hancock almost comes close to a kiss, but Luffy's innocence prevents it from happening. He was more concerned with eating and planning his next steps to save Ace than noticing Hancock's feelings. Despite this, there is an evident affection in how Luffy treats Hancock, even if unconsciously. Perhaps at some point, Luffy might realize the impact he had on her life and respond in some way, but that remains uncertain. Another moment worth mentioning is Luffy's relationship with Nami, which is also full of nuances. Nami is one of the first to join the crew and has shared some of the most emotional and challenging moments of the story with Luffy. The Arlong Park arc is a perfect example. In chapter 81, when Nami finally asks Luffy for help, there's such a strong emotional connection between the two that it could almost be interpreted as something deeper. I believe this moment solidifies their mutual trust and the foundation of their friendship, but it also leaves room for more subjective interpretations of what might have been. There's a specific scene in chapter 995 that some fans like to interpret romantically. During the confrontation with Ulti, Luffy and Nami display a dynamic that reflects how much they trust each other. While it's not a kiss or something explicit, I think this scene shows how they share a special bond. It may not be strictly romantic, but there's something unique in the way Luffy inspires Nami to fight and never give up. Who knows, maybe in the future, Eiichiro Oda will explore this relationship further, but for now, it remains open to interpretation. Another character worth mentioning is Vivi. During the Alabasta arc, Luffy's relationship with Vivi is built amidst extremely challenging situations. Chapter 216 shows the moment Vivi decides to stay in Alabasta, but there's an exchange of looks between her and Luffy that might just maybe be interpreted as a more sentimental farewell. Luffy has always shown great respect for Vivi, and in a way, perhaps she saw in him someone she could trust completely. Even though there was never anything explicit between them, I think the emotional connection they shared in Alabasta is significant and deserves to be remembered. Finally, it's impossible not to mention Luffy's interactions with Shirahoshi during the Fishman Island arc. Shirahoshi, being a princess and a highly emotional character, finds in Luffy someone who not only protects her, but also helps her overcome her fears. Chapter 628 shows a moment where Luffy holds Shirahoshi's hand, which, though simple, has a profound impact on her. I think this gesture reflects the kind of person Luffy is, someone who sees no barriers between himself and others, regardless of who they are or what they represent. Perhaps if the story brings them together again in the future, we might see more of this dynamic. But for now, it remains a sweet reminder of how Luffy touches the hearts of everyone around him. When discussing Luffy's closest moments with female characters, one of the most attention-grabbing is his encounter with Reiju Vinsmoke, Sanji's older sister. This is, as far as we know, the only moment where Luffy actually shares a kiss with another character. This situation happens in the whole Cake Island arc, specifically in chapter 844. During a moment of despair and vulnerability, Luffy is saved by Reiju, who helps him in an unexpected way by transferring the antidote to the poison affecting him through a kiss. I think this scene is more significant than it appears at first glance, not because it represents some kind of romance between the two, but because it reflects Reiju's altruistic and protective nature, while also showing Luffy in a rare moment of vulnerability. This moment also raises interesting questions about how Luffy's relationships with female characters are built. I believe that even unconsciously, Luffy has the ability to inspire not only loyalty, but also a form of affection that transcends the traditional boundaries of friendship. In Reiju's case, although the gesture was purely medicinal, there's something in the way she interacts with Luffy that shows respect and admiration for who he is. Perhaps this respect stems from Luffy's way of treating everyone with the same honesty and kindness without making distinctions between people. Now, talking about who could be Luffy's true partner, this is a question that divides opinions. Hancock is undoubtedly the most vocal character about her feelings for Luffy. However, it's hard to imagine Luffy in a traditional relationship, given his carefree nature and his absolute focus on becoming the Pirate King. Perhaps the true partner for Luffy is someone who deeply understands his freedom and shares his dreams. In this sense, Nami also emerges as a possibility. Not only is she one of the closest people to Luffy, but she also understands the importance of moving forward and fighting for her goals, even if it means sacrificing personal moments. Humor also plays a vital role in Luffy's interactions with female characters. One scene that exemplifies this is when Luffy and Nami get trapped together in a dragon's house in Punk Hazard in chapter 656. Although the situation is dangerous, Luffy turns the moment into something almost comical with his carefree comments and inability to take the tension seriously. I think this shows how Luffy has the ability to lighten any situation, creating a fun and relaxed dynamic even in adverse scenarios. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why so many people feel drawn to him, regardless of the context. Another example can be found in his interactions with Shirahoshi during the Fishman Island arc. In chapter 612, Luffy tries to convince Shirahoshi to leave the tower where she's hiding, and his straightforward and carefree approach contrasts with the extremely emotional nature of the princess. I think this scene perfectly reflects how Luffy can forge connections even with characters who are, in theory, very different from him. Perhaps this is Luffy's true magic, his ability to find common ground with anyone, no matter how different their realities might seem. Returning to the question of potential partners, it's important to note that Eiichiro Oda rarely gives clear hints about romantic relationships in One Piece. However, there are moments that could be seen as subtle suggestions. In chapter 216, during Vivi's farewell, there's an exchange of glances between her and Luffy that some might interpret as more significant than it appears. I think this shows that even without intention, Luffy can form deep bonds that can be interpreted in different ways, depending on the perspective. But what about you? Who do you root for? Comment below. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.